The restaurant felt warm and inviting that evening. Soft music played in the background, glasses clinked gently, people talked in low, peaceful voices, the kind that come after years of experience and knowing that shouting rarely solves anything. Before I dive into it, tell me where you're listening from. It helps to know someone out there gets it. At a corner table sat Victor Hale, 56 years old. His hair showed a touch of silver at the sides, and his shoulders carried the steady strength of decades spent building his business. Across from him sat a younger man named Lucas Vane, 37. Lucas had a confident smile and a polished look. He was acting as the translator that night. Victor had traveled to New York City to finalize a partnership contract with an overseas company. The papers sat on the table in a black folder. He believed this deal could mark an important new stage in his career. Standing beside the table was a waitress named Leela Brooks, 32. She had a calm way about her, a neat uniform, and a steady, gentle voice. Leela had worked at the Golden Orchid for many years. She knew how to read people and could often sense when something felt off in a room. She poured red wine into Victor's glass with care. Lucas leaned in closer to Victor and lowered his voice as he translated a message from the men representing the foreign company at another table. Victor listened closely. Lucas spoke smoothly, saying the company wanted Victor to sign right away. He explained that the offer was very good and that waiting might cause him to miss out on the $12 million deal. Victor looked down at the contract. At 56, he understood that time passes quicker than expected, and every signature comes with real consequences. He thought back over the years, the early mornings, the late nights, and all the sacrifices he had made. He remembered his late wife, who had believed in him when his business was just a small idea in a rented garage. For a moment, he felt that familiar mix of pride and loneliness. Life brings success, but it also brings loss. Lucas tapped the folder lightly. "Sir, the partners are ready," he said. Victor nodded slowly. Leela stood quietly nearby, still holding the wine bottle. She watched the exchange carefully. Something about it didn't feel right. Over her years of serving customers, she had learned that people often show their real intentions through small actions rather than words. Lucas was speaking too fast, and his eyes kept shifting toward the other men. As she poured more wine, Leela clearly heard a short sentence spoken in the foreign language. Her grandmother had spoken that same language when Leela was a child. The words came back to her easily. What Lucas was translating did not match what the men actually said. Her heart beat faster. She looked at Victor. He seemed calm, but unsure. Leela took a quiet breath. Sometimes life gives you a clear moment when you have to choose what kind of person you will be. This was hers. She leaned toward Victor and spoke gently but clearly. "Your translator is lying." Victor looked up slowly. Lucas froze. The table suddenly felt very still. Victor studied Leela with surprise, but no anger. "What did you say?" he asked softly. Leela stood tall. "Sir, the men across the room did not say what he told you. He said the contract gives your company away for much less than it is worth. He said you will regret signing, but greed will make you do it anyway." The words hung in the air. Victor felt a cold feeling run through him. Lucas tried to speak. "That is not true," he said quickly. Victor quietly closed the folder. He had spent 30 years building companies and learning to read people. He knew that when someone panics too fast, they are usually hiding something. He looked over at the foreign partners. They avoided his eyes. Victor leaned back in his chair and stayed silent for a moment. He had learned long ago that silence often shows more than words ever could. Finally, he spoke. "Lucas, please translate something for me." Lucas nodded nervously. Victor looked straight at the foreign partner and said a short sentence in English. Lucas translated it. The men replied in their language. Before Lucas could say anything, Leela quietly spoke. "He says the offer cannot change, and you must decide tonight." Victor smiled slightly. Lucas had not yet translated a word. Victor turned back to Leela. "You understood that too?" he asked. "Yes, sir," she replied. Victor nodded slowly. He opened the folder, looked at the contract for several seconds, then closed it again. At his age, a man learns that not every opportunity is worth taking. Some are traps that look good on the surface. "I will not sign tonight," he said. Lucas looked shocked. "Sir, you may lose everything," he insisted. Victor stood up calmly. "A man only loses everything when he gives away his good judgment," he replied. He turned to Leela. "Thank you," he said. Leela gave a small, respectful nod. Victor walked over to the foreign partners. The two experienced men talked directly for several minutes. No translator, no confusion, just honest discussion. The partner eventually admitted the real terms were unfair. Victor returned to the table. Lucas had already left. Victor sat down again and looked at Leela with real appreciation. "What is your name?" he asked. "Leela Brooks," she answered. Victor smiled. "Miss Brooks, you saved me from a very costly mistake tonight." Leela shook her head gently. "My grandmother used to say, 'Truth should never stay silent,'" she told him. Victor chuckled softly. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman." "She was," Leela said. Victor studied her for a moment. He had learned to recognize honest people when he met them. "Miss Brooks, have you ever thought about a different kind of career?" Leela laughed softly. "Sir, I am 32 and I have served tables for 15 years. I am not sure the world has a place for me anywhere else." Victor leaned forward. "The world always has a place for honest voices, especially those brave enough to speak when staying quiet would be easier." That evening turned into a long, meaningful conversation. Victor learned that Leela studied languages in college, but left to care for her grandmother when she became ill. Responsibility shaped her path ever since. Victor listened closely. People in their 50s understand that success is not only about money, it is also about helping others along the way. 3 months later, Victor offered Leela a position in his company, not as a waitress, but as an international communications advisor. She accepted with quiet surprise. In the years that followed, Victor gradually stepped back from daily operations. Leela grew into a respected leader. Employees trusted her because she carried the same honesty she had shown that night in the restaurant. Sometimes at company events, Victor would tell the story. He would share how a waitress saved him from signing a bad deal. He always ended with the same lesson: never ignore the quiet voice of truth. Sometimes wisdom shows up wearing a simple uniform and carrying a bottle of wine. Now, if this story touched your heart and reminded you that courage and honesty still matter, please support the real storytellers. Like this story, share it with someone who believes in kindness, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about a time when someone's honesty changed your life. Your voice matters here at The Real Storytellers.